This Torah class is brought to you by TorahAnytime.com.
Okay, good morning, Rabbi. We're learning Sefer Zephania, Parak Aleph, Pasuk Ches. Parak Aleph, Pasuk Ches. V'haya, and it will be B'yoim Zevach Hashem, on the day of God's sacrifice. Ufakadati, and I will visit Al Hasarim, on the officers, V'al Bnei HaMelech, and on the children of the king, V'al Kol HaLoivshim Malbush Nachri, and all who have donned the clothing of the Gentile. Says Rashi, Malbush Nachri Tachshite Akom, the ornaments of the Goyim. Where the Malbim says, Hamimunim Me'es HaMelech, those who are appointed from the king, Hayalahem Malbushim Mitsuyanim, they have clothing which are distinguished, Keminag Hasarim Shel Ha'amim Hasmuchim Lahem, like the minhag of the princes of the nations that are in proximity of them. Okay, says Rebbeinu Shem, Ufakadati, and I will visit Al Kol Hadoileg Al Hamiftan, all those who jump over the threshold by Yom Ha'hu, on that day, Hamimalim Beis Adoineim, those who fill up the house of their masters, Chamas, with treachery, Umirma, and deceit. Now, what does this mean? That God will visit punishment on those who jump over the threshold. I don't know about you, but I'm not familiar with the custom of jumping over thresholds. But actually, let's become...
There are some people who have a superstition about not stepping on it or not stepping on line.
Right. So sometimes... Okay, good. So in Sefer Shmuel, the Targum Yonasan ben Uziel says like this. Pasuk test V'asar al kol d'mahalchin b'nimusei plishtoi. I will visit punishment on all those who follow the nimusim, the dictates of the Philistines. B'idan ahi. Now, what was the custom of the Philistines? Rashi says Hadoileg al hamiftan Targum Yonasan d'mahalchin b'nimusei plishtoi. They follow the laws of the Philistines. Shaloi hoyu darchim al miftan Dagon. They would not trample on the threshold of Dagon. Shenemar al keim lo yiduchu kahane Dagon. What is this referring to? Well, in Sefer Shmuel, it teaches us that when the Philistines captured the Aron and took it into their temple, they took it into the temple of their idol Dagon. And what happened was, the idol fell on the ground in front of the Aron. So, instead of realizing maybe God has power, they returned it to its place, and it fell again, and it broke, its head broke, and the two hands were severed from the body. So they left it lying on the threshold. So in deference to their Avodah Zarah, they had a custom they would not step on the threshold. But, as sometimes we do, the Jews were even more machmir in this custom than the Philistines. So the Philistines wouldn't step on it. The Jews maintained the practice, but jumping over it. So they actually showed more respect to the Avodah Zarah than the Philistines. Okay. Pasuk Yud. V'haya b'yom ha'hu, and it will be on that day. Noam Hashem. Koyol se'aka. There will be a sound of shouting. Mishar hadogim, from the gate of the fish. The gate of the fish is mentioned in Nehemiah. We had in Sefer Nehemiah the gate of the fish. Vilala, and there'll be wailing minha mishnah from the second gate, which we'll see is the bird gate. Vishever gadol, and there'll be great catastrophe mehagvaos from the hills. Says Rashi, Mishar ha-dagim, Targum Yonasan mitara nunya. From Tara Nunya, from the fish gate, Vishar Hayabushalayim. This was a gate in Jerusalem. V'kach Shemai, this was its name, the fish gate. Well, we have to try to understand why was it called the fish gate.
It's been a market to sell fish there.
Okay. Mina Mishnah. Rashi says Mishar Ha'if is the bird gate. Husheni Lai. So let's see the Radak. Why is it called the fish gate? Says the Radak, V'hayu Mishar Adagim. Shar Shahayu B'Yushalayim Shayanikra Shar Adagim. K'may Shenemar Be'ezra B'yad Shar Adagim U'migdal Chananel V'ulai Hayu Meichim Sham Dagim. Maybe they sold fish there. Maybe. Okay. V'lala min ha-Mishnah, and there was wailing from the Mishnah. He Beis HaMedrash. That's the Beis HaMedrash. K'may shenemar b'Sefer Melachim v'haya yosheves b'Yerushalayim. So interestingly, the Radak interprets this as a reference to the Beis HaMedrash. Now, what does it mean, the Beis HaMedrash? What kind of Beis HaMedrash? This is where Chulda Hanaviah was situated, and she was asked to interpret various psukim and this location. Okay. Helilu, well, Yoshvei HaMachtesh, those who inhabit Machtesh. Ki Nidma Kol Am Canaan, the entire nation of Canaan has been silenced. Nichrasu, they have been cut off. Kol Natile Kasef, all those who were laden with silver. Now, what is Machtesh? Normally, Machtesh is like a Machteshes, is a mortar. So, what does it mean? Helilu Yoshvei HaMachtesh. Let's start with Rashi. Rashi says, Yoshvei HaMachtesh, Nachla de Kidron, the valley of Kidron, the Kidron Valley. Why was it called Machtesh? Sha'amuka k'machteshes. It was deep and chiseled out like a mortar. So according to this is from the Targum Yosem Nezilel, it says Aililu called the Yasim benachla de Kidron. But Rashi quotes a medrash, Medrash Agada Mishar Hadagim, the gate of Dagim, Zu Akoy Hanasuna B'cheikoy Shel Hayam. This is Akoy, which is situated in the lap of the sea. Shesham Nitzoidim Dagim Harbe. There many fish are trapped. Min Mishnah. So the
Machtesh come to Akko. Machtesh is water, right?
Mortar, right?
What's the relationship to Akko? Akko is a seaport.
Oh, so according to this medrash, Machtesh is not Akko. We're going back to Shar Hadagim. Shar Hadagim, according to the medrash, is a reference to Akko. Akko is in the lap of the sea where many fish are caught. Akko is a fishing town, right? Okay. Then what's the Mishnah? Lud. She Mishnah Yerushalayim. Lud is secondary to Yerushalayim. The second most important city after Yerushalayim. Which is interesting because, there's a concept of the four holy cities. You have Yerushalayim, of course. You have Tzfas, Tiberia, Hebron. Apparently Lud, according to this medrash, it's a psikta, is secondary to Yerushalayim.
Second and important.
What? Is there
any branch of Kedusha? Oh?
You have a Gemara that says that the those who are Moiser Nefesh in Lod, there's nobody like them. But I'm not familiar that Lod had any particular Kedusha more than other cities. But here you see, I don't know if we're saying it's secondary in terms of holiness, or maybe in terms of business or importance. And then Min HaMishnah's Lod, Mehagvais, the hills, Zu Tzipari. This refers to Tzipari, Sheshes Rashi Haram Ketzipar. Tzipari was on the top of a mountain, like a bird. Yoshvei HaMachtesh is Tiberia, She'amuka Mikol Eretz Yisrael. It's the deepest part of Eretz Yisrael.
Deep, or below sea level, but deep. I mean, you have. If you look at, the Kinneret, and you look at the Golan around it, it appears to be like inside a mortar, like deep bowl, and the Kinneret is on the bottom. But in terms of real depth, Yam HaMelech is the lowest point on earth. And then if I There are hills, right? Even on the I shouldn't say the Israeli side, but on the other side of the Tveria side of the Golan, it's also hilly, because when you want to go back, you have to climb up the mountains just to get on the road. So it's like a bowl. Kinneret is surrounded like by a bowl.
Or it's considered the Tabor Haaretz, like the navel.
Okay, I understand that.
But what Rashi means that it's Amuka Mikol Eretz Yisrael is hard to understand in light of the fact that it doesn't seem to be the case.
We have the Mount Crater too, like the Grand Canyon.
Then it says Nichrusu Kol Natilei Kasef. All those laden with silver will be cut off. Now, why we mention those who are laden with silver? What about gold? What about other materials? So, Rabbi Sai, please take a look at your trusty sheets. Let's take a look at the Abar Benel in Pasuk Yud Aleph. This should be on page Kuf Ayin. Kuf Ayin Hey, but seems to be cut off. We're not there yet. So I have to get you the next sheet. But the Abar Benel says that in those days they only minted coins out of silver, and that's why only silver is mentioned. Rashi says Kol Natilei Kasef, Kol Asirei Nechsaya, all the wealthy, Tu'une Masa Kesef, laden with treasures of silver, v'zav. Okay. V'haya v'yomahi, and it'll be on that day. Achapis es Yushalayim b'neiros. I will search out Jerusalem with candles. Why with candles? As if when somebody is looking for something very small, then they search in the nooks and crannies with candles like we do. So Rabbi Shalom says, I will search out Yerushalayim b'neiros. Rashi says, Adaktek b'avanoseim. I will be exacting with their sins. Ufakadati al anoshim. And I will visit punishment on the people hakoifim al shemrehem, who are settled on their preserves, on their lees. In other words, if you have wine sitting in a barrel for a long time, the sediment on the bottom of the barrel is called the lees, right? Lees. So when something is very settled and established, it's called sitting on its sediment. Those people, God says, who sit in Jerusalem thinking that peace will be with them forever, who say in the heart, Lo Yitiv Hashem, God doesn't reward for good deeds, Lo Yareh, and He doesn't punish. Rashi says, Hakoifim, Hatzafim al Shemreim, those whose preserves are floating. Next Rashi, Ha'imrim b'vavam lo yitav Hashem, those who say in their heart, God does no good, lo oisei ritzayna, to those who do His will, v'lo yeira, and v'lo yareya, and He doesn't punish with evil, and doesn't do bad, lo oisei ritzayna, to those who violate His will. It says God, v'haya chelam l'mshisa, their wealth will be trampled, uvatehem l'shmama, their houses will be desolate. Rabbi, so we're reading the words of Psukim. What in the world are we talking about? What is this referring to? It's referring to the Chorban Bayis Rishon. Again, we've been moving earlier. Chagei, Zechariah, Malachi were beginning of second Bayis. Now we're going back in time. Zephania is the end of Bayis Rishon, the times of Yoshio HaMelech. These are prophecy of the impending doom of Chorban Bayis Rishon. We mentioned even though Yoshio brought about a nationwide tshuva movement, it was not complete. And this is the prophecy of the impending doom. So their wealth will be trampled. Vateyam l'shmama, their homes will be desolate. Uvanu batim, they will build houses. Lo yeshevu, they will not be settled. V'natu chramim, they will plant vineyards. V'lo yishtu asyenim, they won't drink the wine. Karov yoim Hashem agadol. Close is the great day of God. It's happening soon. Says Rashi, well, So let's see a little bit further.
Do we know the period of time between this Nebuah and the actual Torah?
Well, the Abarbanel said that he prophesied, and that is what the Navi began with. He prophesied in the time of, he's the son, in the days of Yoshiyahu. So we're talking that 100 years.
639 to 608 BCE. So
We're talking about, I believe, 100 years before. 100 years before Chorban Bayis Rishon.
Well, the Chorban Bayis Rishon was 586.
Because is there a Hyrios here?
Oh.
Hyrios. Because Yoshiyahu reigned 100 years before Chorban Bayis
That's about
Rishon.
right. That's what it says.
So assume that putting the prophecy in that historical context, that 100 years before the destruction of.
About right.
Okay. So Karov Yom Hashem Hagadol. Close is the day of God, the great day. Karov u'maher ma'od. Close and very swift. Koyol Yom Hashem. The voice of the day of God. Mar Soireach Sham Gibar. The sound of the day of Hashem, when the mighty warrior cries out bitterly. Mar Soireach, a bitter cry, Sham Gibar, of the mighty warrior. Rashi says, Hagibar Yitzrach Sham B'kol Mar. The warrior will cry out in a bitter voice. What is this referring to? What warrior? Says the Malbim. Very interesting, ingenious way of reading the pasuk. Karov achar shehigid dvar Hashem. After the Navi relates the word of God, Yoymar Navi du ki Yoymar Gadol Karov Bizman. The Navi is adding, by the way, you should know it's very close to Mamaras Atzmai Lavei B'Siboisav. And he describes the imagery that a mighty warrior is standing, and he's crying in a koil mar, and he cries out these words, Yom Hashem. Listen to how the Malbim reads the pasuk. Karov Yom Hashem, the day of God is coming close. Hagadol, that great day. Karov, it's close to Maher Ma'od. Koil, the sound is Yom Hashem! That's the sound that the warrior will cry out. He'll cry out two words. He'll cry out, Yom Hashem, Mar Tzoreach Sham Gibar. These two words of Yom Hashem, the day of God, with a bitter cry, the mighty warrior cries out. He cries out those two words. Next pasuk. Yom Evra, a day of wrath. Hayom, who is that day? Yom Tzara Umetsuka, a day of distress and pain. Yom Shaya Umeshaya. Here we have the word Shaya, destruction and desolation. Shoah, destruction. Yom Choshech V'Afel, darkness and black. Yom Anon V'Arafel, cloud and thick cloud. How many times does it say the word Yom?
4, 5, 6, and the next pasuk.
In this pasuk. Well, in this pasuk it says Yom 5 times. Well, I have a sheet for you of the commentary of the Alshich on Zephania. The name of the commentary is called Marois Hatzoivos. The Alshich, of course, one of the acclaimed commentaries on the Chumash and the Nevi'im. He says on this pasuk, Yom Evra Amar Hine Yom Hashem Anizkar Yom Evra Hayom Ahu Meyatzu Shiyom Tisha B'Av. This Yom Hashem that we're talking about, this day of doom, the day of disaster that we refer to as Tisha B'Av. Shabai Nigzar Al Avosav Shalai Yikansel Aretz. That's the day it was decreed on our forefathers we should not enter the Holy Land. V'nishar boi banei l'doros. Amar Chazal shechamisha dvarim iru lanu b'tes b'av. We know the Mishnah says at the end of Tainus there 5 tragedies happened on Tisha B'Av. V'achshov And I think Nirmazu Payam Ashanigzal Aveseinu Shlo Yikansel Aretz. Says the Alshich, I believe that the 5 tragedies that occurred on Tisha B'Av are alluded to in this pasuk. So regarding the tragedy that it was decreed because of the Chet HaMeraglim that we not go into Eretz Yisrael, Amar Yoim Evra HaYomahu. That's the reference to the beginning of the pasuk, Yoim Evra. Shehu al Hadavar Harishain. V'al Shenechrav Boi Beis HaMikdash Pam Rishain, and the fact that the Beis HaMikdash was destroyed the first time, Amar Yoim Tzara Umetzuka. V'al Shenechrav Boi Bayasheni, Amar Yoim Shoya Umeshaya. Shahaya Boi Himia Gedoyla. There was great confusion, Kenoida B'Knisas Titus Beis HaMikdash, like we know, when Titus entered the Beis HaMikdash. V'al Shabai Nechrova Beitar, and on that day, Beitar was destroyed. Al Shadliku Neres L'Chorban Yerushalayim. So the third time of Yom Shaya Meshaya is referring to Bayasheni. Yom Choshech Va'afela is referring to Chorban Yerushalayim. They used to light Neiros in Yerushalayim, and now no more Neiros in Yerushalayim. Now it's Choshech Va'afela Tmuras Halakas and Neiros. And that which Apostolos burnt the Torah Asher was given Be'anan Aktoras. So we say it's a Yom Anan Va'arafel. B'nei kulam b'yoim me'utad al am b'nei Yisrael. But then the pasuk continues. Yom shofar u'trua, a day of the shofar blast and the trua al ha'arim ha'betzuras, by the fortified cities, v'al ha'pinois ha'gvoyas. Says Rashi. No Rashi. So what is the 6th Yom? What is the 6th Yom?
Here it says that when the invading armies come, they blow their horns, while they're attacking.
Well, how would the Alshich interpret the 6th Yom?
Probably another dark day in history.
Yeah, we have many tragedies to say it's referring to. We know World War I and the Spanish Inquisition. The day of the shofar and the trua, when the enemies sound their blast to mark the beginning of the war, al ha'orim ha'betzuras, on the fortified cities, al ha'pinos ha'gvois, and the tall watchtowers. V'hatzeiroisi la'adam, and I will cause pain to Adam. But more exact, hatziroisi tsar, I will besiege, I will lay siege. Now, who's this Adam? All mankind? Rashi says, Li Yisrael, Hakruyim Adam. Means I will set siege to Adam, meaning Klal Yisrael, like the pasuk says. Zois HaTorah, Adam ki yamos v'ayal. Amar Shema Yechai. Yisrael metame ve'ino v'echa metame. Shenemar zois Torah Adam ki yamos v'ayal. Atem kruyim Adam ve'ino v'dekechavim kruyim Adam. Only Klal Yisrael is called Adam. So here this is a reference to that. I will set siege, lay siege to Adam. V'halchu ka'ivrim, they will walk as if they're blind. Ki l'Hashem chatau, because they've sinned against God. The shupach damam ke'afar, their blood will be spilled like dust. Ulechumam kaglalim. What is the word ulechumam? Their flesh, Rashi says. Besaram, b'lashon aravi, basar karen el lechem. Rashi brings a raya. You know how we know that lechuma means their flesh? Because in Arabic, how do you say flesh? Ala lacham.
Lechem.
What? Right. But why is it referring to?
he says it could mean intestines, but it's related to Gulala.
Okay, so Mirza Hashem will have to see the Abarbanel next week, who will disagree with Rashi, because what does the fact that in Arabic flesh is called lechem have to do with the pasuk in Tanakh? I mean, they could call whatever they want lechem. That has no bearing. But in defense of Rashi himself in Parshas Vaschanan says on the words l'toitafos, he says tat in Caspian is 2 and pat in African is 2. So toitafos, there are 4 parshios. Yeah, but the only thing Rashi, the Torah is not written in African; it's written in Lashon HaKodesh. So somehow we see that other languages have bearing on Hebrew, probably based on the fact that all languages are merely a distortion of Lashon HaKodesh. Because originally there was only Lashon HaKodesh, and then Hashem was mavalbel all the languages. So if you have an indication in another language, that means that really in Hebrew also there's a connection to that meaning. Okay, Rabbi saying.
You've just experienced another Torah class brought to you by TorahAnytime.com.